Hi and welcome. So we're gonna talk about beginner's guide to Java today. I'm gonna start using IntelliJ, and I'm pretty sure I'm gonna use that for the rest of the duration of these videos about Java programming. So let's just get started to talk about what is Java programming and what is this lovely IDE called IntelliJ. So I downloaded and installed the IntelliJ IDE. It is a big program and it has a lot of different sub-processes programmed into it, so it can, for example, detect whether you have flaws in your code, syntax errors, which is did you write your code correct, and so on. For now, we're just gonna take the editor as understand it as the place where we type our code. So I'm gonna press the button New Project, and we're gonna pick the one in the top called Java, and basically it doesn't matter what you about the right side here, so we only focus on this is a Java. It's also called a console project. So I'm gonna click next now, and next again. I'm gonna give it a name, Java Starter, just like that. And you can see the path, it's being saved to here. If you want to change that, you can press the small dots, finish, and there we have it. This is our program. I'm gonna maximize it. Before we do that, by the way, since I have a newly installed version of IntelliJ, it will ask me about tip of the day and so on. I'm gonna say don't show this again, it doesn't really matter for me. So close it. I'm gonna maximize the window and briefly just talk about what we see here on the left side. Now I cannot zoom on this, so I hope you can see this. The first one is called the idea folder, where you can see you have this git ignore, which is, well, for git, but you're not gonna use git in my videos. Also have some XML files, you can open them, and basically you're gonna not worry about those at all, because when you're gonna program in Java, everything you're gonna worry about is inside the source folder here, is the src, which is short for source. So if you right click that folder and click new, and you click Java class, that is basically and mostly what you're gonna do for the duration of many of the videos you're gonna create about Java programming. So why not let's create our first program. So I'm gonna right click, say new, Java class, and I know you see a lot of different things, names and options, and what are all these things used for? You know, if you stick to this ID, this program we're programming in, you will eventually learn a lot of it. You know, I don't know everything about it, but I know, enough to use it for most things. So let's create our first class. So let's go ahead and right click the source folder, or the src folder, click new, and click Java class. When you do that, you're getting prompted to give your class a name, and you can actually choose whether you want to create something called a class, interface, an enum, or an annotation. We're only going to focus on class, so it's the default chosen one. If you have another version of IntelliJ installed, have the brand newest version from 2022, the 28th of January, it's 8:30 almost, as you can see here. So our first class is just gonna let's call it first class for now, and press enter. So I'm gonna zoom on this, and I cannot zoom with the mouse, so I'm gonna go into the file and settings, and I think if I go to let me see, zooming, it is probably under editor, fonts, no, it's not under that. let's go ahead and just search for zoom, and we should be able to find. The last time I did this, it was pretty easy, and I'm pretty sure it should be easy too. So appearances, isn't there a UI enable zooming? Wow, really? This is probably the first thing you're gonna look for when you install this program, how to zoom. And you should think that just because I've been using this before in the past, it's easy to use. But no, I'm just gonna pause the video and find a solution, and then I'm gonna get back. Alright, so I have a guide here. It basically tells me to write zoom here, and it should give me a possibility to choose general, and then something I should be able to check, change font size. Yeah, so I'm gonna click this and apply OK, and now I can hold down the control key and scroll the mouse, and we are happy. So I'm gonna take this font size for now. So this is our first class. I think the very first task which you learn is to run the code. Even though this is pretty empty, it doesn't do anything. It's really easy in IntelliJ. You just right click. I mean, first you have to create the main class, which is where your program starts from. So let's type ps vm, and this is a shortcut I'm going to teach you today. So you're going to type that, and this pop-up is going to be here. You can double click it, and it will write this code for you. Now, I know that many teachers will say, oh, you have to learn to type all that is. Yeah, that is true. I would advise you to do it, but for the simplicity's sake of this, for the simplicity of this video, I'm gonna use generators to, you know, write some of the things, because, you know, it is the 2022, you know, like 2022, so why not? So when you have this class here, you're probably wondering, what is this? Now, I'm gonna open Paint now and briefly just, you know, with a drawing, tell you what this means. So this is our computer. Inside the computer we have Java running, and when you create a new program, let's assume your program is a circle. When you start that program, how does the Java program that's running, you know, that can compile our code, you know, and compiling is another word for building. How does the Java program know how to build our program, and how does it know where the program starts? Everything starts someplace, right? You know, it's like, think of a program like a set of instructions, but even though you have a set of instructions, you need to start somewhere, right? So a program also starts somewhere, and basically this is the main as in start here. So everything has to eventually start from main. So this is just the small green, you know, whatever it's called, round thingy I draw inside the program, and let's just assume the program is red, and what is inside the screen. So if all the other code written is the red color, all the red code, all the code that is red is going to be called at some point from inside the green area. That is a way to think about it. Now, that is a very simple way to explain it. So, if I should make another explanation. So if you have, let's say, a lot of blocks of code, you have some code written here, and different kind of blocks of code needs to be called at some point. Let's call this block 1, block 2, and block 3. Then we have our method here called, well, the main something at what is it called, right? This is called a method, but I think for you we can just call it where the code starts. So the code will start somewhere. And as a code, let's just start using the real words. It is called the program. So the program starts here. The very first thing we're gonna do is, it says, okay, I'm gonna run number 2, then I'm gonna run number 1, and then run number 3. So the first thing when we start this program is that it's going to call this part of the code here. Now there's a chance that this part of the code can call this part of the code, and this part of the code can call that, and so on and so on. Now, it doesn't really matter much for the starter. We're just gonna call it. So let's say we call block number 2. We just follow the arrows, and basically eventually when everything is done, so we run these lines of code. Okay, so we need to run these lines of code too, and need to run these lines of code too. When we get to the very bottom, all right, the very last line of code, which is also called an instruction, well then the program says, okay, so I'm done executing this step called, well, the first step, but it is number 2, and it's called number 1. So we're gonna call number 1 now. And since number 1 doesn't have any arrows to follow, it's only the 4 lines of code we're gonna execute in this set of instructions, and then so on. That is another way of explaining what this is meant to do. Alright, so let's go back and say, let's write our very first lines of code. And I think most tutorials do something called, if you write S-O-U and T, SOUT, or system out print line, it will be, double click this. It will give you this line of code. System is the short for system, and it contains, as the help function says in the idea, several useful class fields, methods, and so on and so on. Right now it's just like, yeah, this is jimble jumble, you just want to see something on the screen. Out, of course, means out, so it's something that goes out of the program. And print is a function to print on the screen, and LN is for new line. Alright? Or line new, whatever we're gonna say. So inside these parentheses here, we can type some text. And that text we're gonna type inside of here is gonna be some words, or a sentence. And in programming, and it kind of doesn't matter which programming language you write in, text is 99% always wrapped or encapsulated inside quotations. So let's do double quotations. Inside of this, we just type, hello, this is my first program. And as you see, we have a perfect line of code here writing this piece of text to the screen whenever we run the program. But there's another thing we need to think about. There's a semicolon in the end. So going back to the whole idea of of this program starts somewhere, and this is our green. Think back to the paint drawing now. So this here, it got the what should we call these? Let's call them squiggly brackets or something like that for now. When I set the cursor on it, pay attention to that this one becomes yellow and the one here becomes yellow. It lights up. So the one is pointing to the one side and the other one down here is pointing to the other side. So it's like a pair. Now inside that pair we can have multiple lines of code. So I can have one line here, and I can even copy paste that line and put another line below it, and so on. Imagine now that the semicolon, just as in Morse code, is the same as saying stop. Okay, so we can look at this sentence here saying, so we have some sort of instruction here, something with the system, we want it out somewhere, want to print it to the screen, and what we want printed to the screen is going to put inside the two, look at how it's highlighted again, the two that encapsulate or wrap around the same word, the text which is also encapsulated or wrapped around with double quotations, and then we have the actual text, and then we end the whole instruction and the input for the printing part that put it to the screen with a semicolon. So if I right click now on this program, you can see that we have this here called run first class.main. This is because main is the thing we learned as where the program starts, and there can only be one main in all programs. So if we have 10 programs written Java, every single one of those 10 programs have a single main method. And let's just start to use some words. I'm really trying to explain like big at the moment to get you into what is going on here. So let's run this now. Just click run, and something happens and blinks, and boop, you can see down below something pops up that is called the console. The console down here, I can also zoom in that by holding control now and zoom in and out, and we can see we have two lines here. The very first top here, like C:/ blah 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 blah, that is basically some commands that have been executed. Don't mind that. The one here below is the output message from the program saying that we finished our execution of code, the two lines here, with the execute of 0, and that is good. But for you at the moment, you should focus on the two lines here saying hello, this is my first program, and you have that 2 times. So you can say, but if I take this line here and I just delete this text and I write my car is yellow, and then you run it again, and now you've ran it once, and you can see there's a small green arrow here now, and you can press that, also called the play button. You press it, and now your program is running one more time. Now you see that it says my car is yellow. Hello, this is my first program. So now you can even, I'm gonna give you an assignment. Play around with this, just make as many of these lines as you want. Only copy paste whole lines and alter the text. There is a different way you can use this print. You can do it without the ln, so it's just going to be print. If you do that, what do you think will happen? I'm pretty sure you guessed this right. What will happen is that this line here will be on this line here. Let's run the program now. And as you can see, it kind of jumped up to the end of the other line, but no space in between. Now, why is that? Okay, so since we're calling the system out print now, and I know you have many questions to this, and starting a new programming language, and especially starting with Java, is pretty difficult. So system is a group of commands you can call. When you create a dot, you're basically accessing that group. It's like having a box of stuff, a box of tools, and when you open that box of tools, dot, you make a dot, then you can open the box or the dot, and then you can take out the hammer, the screwdriver, whatever tool you wish, and that is what you do in Java. When you open up the box, you put a dot or a period. How are you gonna say it? But I'm gonna say dot, okay? So you're gonna system.out.print. There are many other commands that just print, and this is where but you call print a command, you call that a box and that a box. Yeah, I know. In Java, everything is considered as something we called an object, and this is far too fast and not the correct type of word we're gonna learn about right now. But let's just drop the word for now and go back to the line below and say, why is it that this is on one line? Well, print is basically saying I'm going to print this, but there's no new line afterwards, so it's going to be printed. Right after, we're going to print this, but the new line is appended in the end, not in the front. That is why it is on one line. Let's go back and add the ln again. This is our first class. So I think for this video I'm gonna give you a small task, and the next video we're gonna start talk about to create our first method, which is how we can create repeatable and callable code without writing the code again. So I really want to make sure that you learn the more important things, like don't repeat yourself too much, the dry principles, don't repeat yourself dry. I want to make sure that you learn better semantics of Java, and I also make sure that we do it in the correct objectional, what I'm gonna say it, way, right? So for this video, I'm gonna give you a task. Play around with the system out print line, but also try to go down here and do system. And please pay attention that if you don't obey the capitalized S here, it's not gonna work. And then you get all these red lines, and for this particular IDE or this program we're programming in, it's really easy to see if you have a flaw. You get red lines and small red waves in the bottom. So capitalized S system dot, and you see the dot. You have lots of things you can do other than out, but for now let's just do out, and then another dot, and then we can see all these different print ln and print and something, a lot of things, but I want you to only focus on the one print new line and try and create some beautiful, let me say something. If you do one here and you have one down below and you select one, and there we go, and run this, you get you can see a small, so if that should be in the middle, you should definitely press space one more time, and then you can get small, look like a tree. So if you create another one and say it's gonna be even further in, then we need to move everything one more time, and you can run it again. No, and play around with this and create small, funky, we can do this. Now we have an A, we just draw the letter A. Try and make another letter or something. Just something fun you like. Don't waste too much hours on this thing. It's just, small thing to do. Okay, so in next video, we're going to talk about creating our first method and avoiding to have too much repeatable code. Take care.